Okay, everyone, we're back again to yet another session. I'll make very brief remarks, 2 minutes remarks. I want to introduce you all to our recent, May graduates. We have here with us Shayan Manzar, who's from Pakistan. He did his LLM in Business and Finance Law, and he externed at the World Bank during the spring semester. We have also Luisa Maria Lamprea, who was also a Business and Finance Law LLM student from Colombia. She's the one who sent over hundreds of emails. Last year, she was able to land an internship at an international trade law boutique in the spring. And we have Fernando Munoz, who's from Ecuador in the environmental law program, and he's currently interning at the Embassy of Ecuador on environmental law issues. So this is a very informal Q&A session. They will all tell you a bit about themselves, what they learned, what they wish they had done differently. You all can be very frank, even if our team is seated in the back. You could tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly. You could say whatever you want. So it's all yours. I'm heading out.
Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for coming here. I'm Luisa Maria. I'm from Colombia.
Do we need a mic, actually? Because do we have a mic, Sophia? No? But that's fine. Maybe if you could speak up just a little bit. Yeah, maybe if you stand there, they may hear you. I don't know. They might. Yeah, go ahead, Luisa.
Okay. I'm from Colombia. I just finished my LLM program. I took the bar exam this July 2024, the New York bar exam. I took my LLM program International and Comparative Law. I learned many things in this program, many more things living here, working with people from different countries, and I will pretty much make a very small resume of what you should know for starting this LLM program and what your expectations and reality of the program as well should be.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Fernando. I am from Ecuador. I am really happy to be here with you. Things really go full circle. 1 year ago, I was having the same exact conversation, really afraid but excited at the same time. I did my LLM in International Environmental Law. It was really great. We were, I think, 2 or 3 students in that field of International Environmental Law, but generally environmental law students was a bigger number. What I can share about me and my experience is that it really was a good year. I'm sure you will have an excellent year. You will know excellent people, excellent professors. And if I wanted to start this conversation with one word or with one advice, it would be approachable and approach to everyone, no matter the culture, the age, country, be approachable and approach.
Hi guys, I'm Shayan Manzar from Pakistan. I used to work as a transaction lawyer at one of the law firm in Pakistan, and Did that for around 3 years, so I came over to work, and I came here to GW for an LLM in business and finance law, and a great time doing that. During my same semester, I did my CPT working at MEGA at the World Bank. I had a tremendous time over there. It's a great cafeteria. And since then, I've been, just waiting for my work authorization to start over there again. I would love to talk to you more about my experience there, my time here, and if I can say something to start off is, I'm extremely jealous of all of you because I would much rather be there than be here. I miss being a student, and I would take that over anything else.
Okay, so I will start with my recommendations and my main learnings from the year, and I will divide my advices or my intervention in 4 main points. The first point is a general comment, second, grades and classes, tier internships and job opportunities, and for connecting in DC. So my first general comment is you sit down if you have not done it before coming here and think about what you want to accomplish out of this program. What do you want with this program? Why did you come here? What are the main goals of taking this program? Is having a spring internship, is having a summer internship, is stay here working 1 year, or even is develop your life here, or is going back to your original country. I think that it is very much important, because from that point is that my advices or everyone else's advices are going to be useful and are going to be, of course, adaptable to your situation. Okay, everyone's situation is different, and I think that starting with the point of knowing why you came here, what you want to accomplish here, is the most important and basic part of the total program. The second part of my intervention is grades and classes. Many things are going to be saying about grades and about how important is your score, academic score. But I will say, if you want to work in a big law firm or even in an international institutions like the World Bank, especially in a big law firm, you will need good grades. That's for sure. Because many of the positions that you see when you be applying is that you require at least a 3.5 score. That's an important point to take into account if you want to work in a big law firm, or unless that the law firm is required something very special from you, that they say, okay, we don't care about your score, we want you here, and that's what we want. But that's not normally the case. The case is that if you want to work in a big law firm, you need good grades. Otherwise, if you want to work in a boutique or in a middle law firm, in a middle level law firm, you don't need great grades. You need people. You need to connect with people that know you and know your work and know your profile. In regard with classes, I took. It's important to know that the fall semester you feel like a little longer semester than your spring semester. Your spring semester is absolutely nothing. For example, right now I have no stop because I finished the internship, finished my exams, sit down to the bar, now sit down to the other exams, part of the bar exam, and looking for another job. It's a lot of work. So I took more classes in my fall semester, but it depends on what you want with this program. I took more classes, and it gave me a lot of flexibility in my second semester, because I was able to have the internship, to host events, to have cold calls and informal interviews. So that was pretty important. If you are gonna take the bar exam, it depends as well again, but I consider that taking, for example, contrast, that is a very heavy class, is better to take it in fall when you have more time than in spring when you don't have time at all and you have your research paper as well. I think that the research paper part of the program is also very important to know when you are gonna have it in your first semesters or in your seconds. For me, it was very good to have it in my second semesters because you know more the dynamic of the university, you know more the dynamic of the program, and you feel more safe than doing your research paper in the first semester. One important thing about the classes is that if you don't feel good with the professor, just change it. That was a mistake that I think I did, was because I took my contract class and I didn't feel really good with the professor, and it ended up being my lowest grade of the program. So be very careful. If you don't like the professor, just change it if you can with the schedule. Because it does not have any sense paying so much money for a professor that you don't feel really good with. Okay, so that's very important. That's the second point. The third point is internships and job opportunities. I was just talking with Fahid because we had there are right now the positions for the next year 2025 are open right now, and they close in September and October. So if you're gonna start to apply right away, you are gonna be you are gonna see yourself in a very difficult situation in 1 year, because in 1 year most of the law firms, especially the big law firms, already closed the programs, right? So depending on what you want to do, one very, very great program is the Foreign Lawyers program that many law firms have. So those big law firms have specifically a program for LLMs. And those are the main programs that you should apply for or should look for. And for applying, I don't mean just sending the applications, but also trying to talk with the pioneers of that law firm or that area, so they can send your CV to the recruitment team as well. That's very, very important. You start your applications. Of course, you need to study, but in my personal view, you need to study close to the exams because that's when you're great. They say that they are gonna give you more points for participating and for preparing classes. But if you are not in a call, my experience was that they don't give you more grades. So it's, for me, a waste of time studying that hard, when the important thing is that you study for the exam and not just for the classes, because if you are not going to get grades and you are taking your time for just preparing the class, so it doesn't make much sense when you will need to be presenting applications, for example, or connecting with people. Try big companies, but try big companies, why? Because they could sponsor you. Big law firms, why? Well, it depends. If you love law firms, I love law firms, so it's a great team. But also apply for judicial positions. That's a very, very great team for developing a career here. Because many of the law firms or many of the places where you are going to work or you want to work are required clerkships. And your clerkship doesn't need to be federal because you cannot, but it can be district or it can be a state courts. You know, even a small judge, just like a normal judge. That's very important. So if you can get a clerkship, that would be amazing. Try to obtain a spring internship. Try to integrate, if it is possible, I didn't do it, but that's very important, a law review. It is another thing that every law firm asks you. Law review and clerkship. That's very, very important. And here there are a lot of legal reviews as well. So that's a great opportunity and a great advantage of being here. And the last point from internships and opportunities is get your CV updated and your cover letter ready, because that's what you are going to present for the applications. You cannot start to apply if you don't have your CV. I remember there was some classmates that started to finish their CV until September or until even October. And I was like, wait, you lost so much time. Don't lose time because there is no time. And the last part of my intervention is connecting. Take advantage you are in the scene. Go to events, meet a lot of people, a lot of new people, and I saw this in some of my classmates, and was that they feel scared of talking with new people, scared of being embarrassed, or scared of creating an awkward moment. I mean, I will not care less, and you should not care at all, because having the opportunity to talk with new people from different professions, from different schools, or from different law firms and institutions is what is going to give you a job opportunity, and is what is going to enrich absolutely your program. For example, during my winter break, I sent a lot of emails. Because Fahid said 200, I was like, no, I sent 700 emails in order to get a spring internship. and I got an spring internship. It was a great experience, and it is a great experience in order to get a job as well here. But what allowed me as well was not just getting the internship, but was the process. I meet people that I thought I would never have the opportunity to talk. I talked with a judge of the WTO, from the appellate body member of the WTO, who was representing the United States during 2 periods. I worked, or I talked with some person, some people, a professor of Yale, who was as well advisor of the President Clinton here. After I talked with a person who was the advisor of former President Trump, and all of that was just joining us. And you don't have that. They are not gonna be everywhere. You're not just gonna walk 3 steps and talk with them. You need to look for the opportunities to talk with those kind of people who's gonna give you a lot of advices about your CV, about your cover letter, about how to approach interviews, about how to talk with people here. That's very, very important. So I think that one of the most fundamental parts of my program was talking with those such great people after I made an event and I invited them here to the university. So that I absolutely recommend you. I think that's way, way important. Make friends at the school, that's very helpful, but also make friends outside the school, other schools, other universities, other law firms. And this is a very long trip, a very difficult. It has ups, it has downs, it has a lot of things. It's very busy, but the only thing that you are gonna do is try, because of then you don't get the results. You don't have control over the results, but you have control over what you do every day to get to that result. Thank you.
Well, after this great talk of Luis, I feel a lot of pressure. I didn't know all my advices, so I feel pressure to know them now. But it is true. One thing that Luisa said that is fundamentally true is that you have to envision what kind of career do you want to make, what kind of path do you want to follow. You have a lot of paths. You have the non-profit path with NGOs. You have the law firm path that Luisa gave excellent advices about it. You have the academic path. If you want to be a research assistant during your LLM, you can do it. By the way, you can be a research assistant during your LLM year. After the LLM, you could be a professor. You will need other requirements, but it is a good first step. So yeah, envision the kind of path. And regarding the law firm path, I think Luisa gave excellent advice. I can talk to you about the academic path. One of my dreams is to become a law professor. So I try to direct my LLM year towards that. For instance, we created with the environmental law program a lot of courses and not courses but webinars, seminars. And I actually got to be a speaker in one of these events, and in 2 other events I was a translator of one of the main speakers, the interpreter. So that was a great experience, and obviously it did not happen because, just like the professors or the dean came to me and they told me, hey, do you want to be a speaker in one of our events? It doesn't happen like that, right? You have to approach people, you have to knock doors, you have to make yourself noted in class. Yeah, noted in class. You have to make people notice you in class. So and that leads me to the second point, which is participate in class. I know that maybe, especially from what I heard from my European classmates, in Europe you don't get to participate that much in class because there's so many students, and usually you don't get that much in touch with your professor. Your professor barely knows your name, and it's a different experience. Here in the United States, it's not at all like that. You get the chance to get engaged with your professor, to talk to them, to make them questions after the class. They are really welcoming for the questions you make after the class and for the exams and for the questions that you can make during the class. So don't be afraid at all. If it's not your comfort zone to make questions during the class, then beat that. Break that wall and make the questions you want, because you're only gonna be here 1 year as a student, probably, if you don't do a PhD later, right? But this experience will last 1 year, well, less than a year, 9 months actually, I think it's the LLM. So, given that, don't be afraid to make the best of your class time. For instance, every time that I saw that my country had different rules in some subject than here in the United States, I will tell the professor that. Not in an obvious way, like, hey, professor, in Ecuador we do this like this way. You can be more smoother, right? For instance, professor, class, what do you think if the US, instead of doing this, would take this other path? Do you find that interesting? What advantages would you say does that have? And you can enrich the class. Actually, one of my professors at the end of the class told me and one classmates, like one from Colombia, guys, I really appreciated the comments you made in class, because, and I really like when LLM students, international students are in my class, because it always enriches the class. It makes the class so much better, because we get new perspectives, new criteria of the law, new ways of thinking the law. So US students and US professors appreciate that. So that's one point that you can really use. Now, talking during the exams, one advice that the exams, one advice that I would like to give you is do the practice questions. Don't make my mistakes. Because on the first semester, well, in Ecuador, we do have the practice questions kind of exams, but it's not the general rule. Usually it's all about the theory, right? So I was used to learning the theory, being able to memorize a concept, maybe apply that concept, yeah. But at the end of my exams, I really noticed that there is a method for that, and that you should really get to know the kind of style that your professor uses in the exams. And I didn't do it, and I regretted it on the first semester. On the second semester, I started my practice exams like 2 months before the exam, and I really saw an upgrade in my grades. So that is fundamental. The practice exam style here in the US is really common. Now, another advice I could give you, another recommendation is don't be afraid of the no's. You know, as Luisa said, you send 700 applications? I send around 400 applications. I knock doors. I once went to the office of a judge, and I knocked his door. He actually was my professor. And I say, hey, do you need someone to open the door in your office? Like, can I help you with something? Do you need someone who passes you the documents or whatever? He was really kind, but the answer definitely was a no in that. But I tried, right? So what I'm trying to say is, at some point it's gonna be hard. At some point you're gonna get so many no's behind you, that it's gonna hurt in any way. And I'm not telling you this to disappoint you, but to face you with reality, because that's gonna happen. But remember that behind every yes, there's 1,000 no's behind. So that yes eventually is gonna come. It came for me, it came for Luisa, it came for Shajan, it came for many of my classmates after hundreds of tries, but it came. And one final advice is, this is an advice that I was given in the beginning of the LLM, but I think it's really important, is try to break the wall that is between the JDs, the US students, and the international LLMs. There is definitely a wall in there. It's not intentional, it's not something that it's made on purpose, but you know, you gather with your international LLM friends that you're becoming to know right now, and you forget that there's 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 US students that know the US legal environment, that have judge contacts, professor contacts, and that are really good persons as well. And you can really find great, kind persons in the US LLMs. So don't forget to approach them. And one of the best things about UW is that you get to share classes with JDs. JDs is Juris Doctor. It's the first degree of the law here in the US, right? So you get in touch with them, right? And believe me, if you follow my first advice, that is participate, some of them are gonna approach you, even if you don't, like some of them are gonna look for you, are gonna search you and say like, hey, you know, that was a good point. In the US, it doesn't work like that, but it's really interesting. The US should adopt that, or these kind of conversations, you know. But if they don't approach you, you do. Don't be afraid of it. Because sometimes, well, right now I'm speaking as a Latino, right? But I always say that Latino people make friends in the elevator, right? We need that 30 seconds. Yeah, there's my people there. We need those 30 seconds to become friends with someone. But I understand that not every culture and not every personality is like that. So for me, it was a hard adaptation. So if you're Latino and you find that struggling at the beginning, break it. Break it because you're gonna make a lot of friends regardless of how a little more passive or you know, not that approachable is the culture here. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando and Luisa. I feel like they covered most of what I wanted to say, but to talk about my experience and divide my time on three things. What I did in school, what I did to get a job, and a little bit about the New York bar exam because I'm still recovering from that. But before that, you know, when as international students when we come to America, we tend to forget that we've lived lives before we came here. I was a lawyer for 3 years at arguably the biggest law firm in the country, working on some insane transactions internationally, huge work. But when I came here, there's a sense of, you know, a JD is better than me, or, you know, why would a big law firm choose to employ me? And you tend to erase the experience or the history that or the life that you lived so far. That is the biggest mistake you can make. Because everything you've done so far, if it's work, in a law firm, if it's teaching or wherever, use that as ammunition and as arms that it will help you get something. If not here, then somewhere else. But don't act like you haven't done anything before. That's one. So about me, when I was working back home, one of our clients was the World Bank, and we used to be local counsel. The law firm used to be local counsel for their projects in Pakistan, and it happened to be the case that after my first year at the firm, they gave that account to me. So I was dealing with consultants and ETCs, and sometimes, you know, the directors at the bank and the locations, the transactions at back home. So I had some idea what they do and what the structure is like, what sort of people they generally employ, and I enjoyed that. And then enjoyed working with them, and towards the very end, that was my only client primarily. So when I was applying to law schools in America, I knew I wanted to be in some capacity as an intern or later in my life work at the World Bank. So I concentrated my applications to the DMV area, especially DC. And then the GW happens to be literally next door. So that played a part. So my point is you have to be absolutely laser focused in terms of what you do. Which brings me to my next point. When you're in school, if you have a specialization, make sure you really concentrate your time and courses and coursework into what you want to do. Or if you're an employer in mind, see what other employees or other lawyers are doing over there and pick out those courses. For instance, in my second year, in my second semester, I realized at MEGA there's a big focus on project finance. So, you know, I dropped one of my M&A focus courses and enrolled into international project finance. It was a great time. Also, I could show them later on that I have not the work experience, but also coursework and international project finance. So that really helps. There's that. Luisa talked about a GPA. She said 3.5. I would say aim higher, because when you're competing against JDs, it's really important to get a good GPA. I realized that I started getting interviews after my first semester, after my results came out, because I could put my GPA on a resume. Might be a humble brag, but it's really important Because you would be applying to most of your jobs and most of your applications or internships or whatever starting November or December or January, and by that time you have your first semester grades out. Even if you're applying in May, you won't have your second semester GPA after that. So work really hard the first 4 months. You can use that GPA and leverage that into getting some sort of position at some law firm. So there's that. Talk to your professors. I wouldn't advise you to, directly ask for a job, but they've been here, most of them have been here for several years. They have roots in DC, they have roots in many law firms. I remember one of my law professors, Professor Roth, she was a world banker for, I think, 15, 20 years. So when I got my interview call, I reached out to her and we sat down for 2 hours and she basically prepped me for my interview because she'd been in there and she knew what language they spoke, what sort of personalities they were looking for. So leverage the experiences of your professors into getting what you want. If anything, they might know other lawyers or other people who might be looking for someone with your skill set. Which reminds me, a lot of us have a third language or a second language that is native to us. That's really important because a lot of law firms have clients maybe in your home country or in a country where your language is the native language, and sometimes they will just hire you because you know that language. And be on the lookout for that, and especially true for the World Bank because sometimes they have projects going on in certain part of the world and they need someone to go over documentation. Even if it's like a very short-term opportunity, it's a great place to get your foot in either an international organization or a law firm. So there's that. And anyway, so what happened with me was around, believe it or not, I just applied. I think 5 months I told you about CORE. It's an employment portal for GW, and they have those jobs postings over there. I just applied over there through CORE and sent in my cover letter and resume. So I was great about that. And they got back to me because they were looking for a lawyer with 3 years of experience in M&A corporate transactions and was an LLM. So that was a good fit. That's my point. So look for a position that you are a good fit. Make a good application, and they will usually get back to you, even if you don't get a second interview. I interviewed and I got it. Once I was there, even though you're supposed to work 20 hours as per your visa, it's never 20 hours. So there's a lot more than that. Because you have to show your availability, you have to show that you're willing to compete with other interns. You work as hard as you possibly can, and then have a conversation with them about retaining you. And if they need you, if there's business need, and if, lucky for me, they were trying to expand at that time, so that worked out. My point is, there's the Louisa brute force way of doing things, and there's this precise sniper rifle way of doing things. No way is right, no way is wrong. I still remember, I was talking to my wife back in December that I just have one interview. I applied to one place, just have one interview. If I don't get it, what do I do then? What do I do then? She's like, you'll get it, it'll be fine. And she was right. Nothing really happens. My point is, this is a great way of doing things, especially for law firms. But for international organizations, you have to really look for a position that where you really are a good fit for. So leverage your expertise, leverage your experiences, and you'll do well. About the bar exam, start as early as you possibly can. It's an uphill battle for all of us. I wasn't a bad student. I don't have trouble with English. In fact, back home and at work, it's almost native to me. But it's a test of memorization. It's a test of endurance. It'll tire you out, and maybe even decide if you want to do it or not. A lot of places don't need you to do it. If you're working as a law clerk, even if you're working at the World Bank, they don't need you to pass the New York bar exam. You just need to be barred at some jurisdiction in any World Bank member country, which I already was in Pakistan. So So think about if you need it or not. But if you really need it, start as early as you can. Maybe in April. I know it's difficult because your finals going on. A lot of people have job interviews at that time. But start as early as you can. It's really important to have a lot of discipline because it's a daily 10-hour thing every single day. And a lot of us are not prepared for that. I saw it twice. My wife gave it in February. I took it in July. I'm glad we didn't take it together. My marriage would not survive that. It was really, it is incredibly tough for the both of us because if someone's doing that, you need to cook and clean for the person. Either way, my point is decide if you want to do it. For a lot of you who want to go back, have scholarships that require you to go back, it may not be worth it. But I have seen personally that a lot of people become really, really employable in the Middle East or Singapore, Hong Kong. My point is it also counts outside of the US. There are pros and cons. But and I don't even talk about how expensive it is. It's Barbie is incredibly expensive, and then there's the traveling to Buffalo or Albany and all of that. So have a conversation internally, speak to someone who's been through that, and see if you want to do it. And sometimes people do it twice. That's fine. Doesn't make you a bad lawyer. Sometimes you have a bad day, you're out of time. That's okay. But have the conversation with yourself internally. And lastly, just have a good time. I feel like I made the mistake of living really far away from campus. I spent my entire LLM living in Bethesda, which was around a 45-50 minute commute, and I still remember every time we'd be at night, out at night with my friends, I would have to rush to the metro at 11:55 because the metro's closed at 12, and I'm not paying $60 for an Uber. So there's that thing. I mean, try to have fun and have as much fun as you can because it's possibly the last time we're students, and it's possibly the only time in your life you'll be in a room with people from 40 different countries. Doesn't really happen all that much. So have a good time. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I was thinking you may use a final comment with the bar, and yeah, the bar is a very challenging exam. But it's very challenging for the JDs. It's even more challenging for us because we need to learn in 3 months what they learn in 3 years. And of course, we have a background in law, but at least in my case, because I'm from a continental system, it is different. It's a different logic. So it took me a lot of time. One friend from a JD program who was living in my building was like, "Why do you study?" I was studying 12 hours per day from Monday to Sunday. And she was like, "You are studying so hard." I was like, "I have to because I cannot lose the exam." And second, it's very different from what many things are very different from what I have done before because I am from a different legal system, but it's very worth it. It's super expensive, but it's very, very worth it because that's what gives you a general landscape of what United States legal system means. Because you come here and you study many international law classes, you study here, there, but in the Barbary course, you study everything. Everything. Wills, corporations, contracts, family law, everything. So I love it. I very much love my entire studying there because I love law. But it's very challenging. If you plan to be here, I would say take it immediately. It's a pain that you are already in your LLM program. You are used to study again, to sit down again. So I took it. It was when I started, I was thinking take it next year. But one of my interviews told me, no, take it as soon as you can. And I think that's a great advice. In the very beginning, it was more stressful. I even wasn't able to sleep really well, thinking about how many things I didn't know and how many things I need to learn in such a short period of time. But well, let's see if the results are come as we expected and try your best.
So one thing they don't tell you here, there's a nap room down in the third floor.
Ah, yeah. an
Not
ab,
much.
an
That-
ab row in
that
the
was where I was.
Third floor.
third floor. It's
We
amazing.
got the same advice in the orientation, and I was like, that's so awkward. Who would go to sleep like in law school? Like,
What you were?
I use it so many times I don't count.
Yeah.
At the end, no, it becomes necessary at some point.
Yeah.
And Shayan mentioned transportation. By the way, you have 1 year of free bike with every biking, the city bikes, with every trip that's under 30 minutes. So that's really usual. I remember that when I was coming to school in biking, I felt like my Ross from Suits. When the first episodes, when he was in the suit and everything, well, I was feeling like that. And a nice thing about DC is that it has a lot of hidden places. I don't know why. In August, especially my first month, I walked through downtown and the city looked so lonely. Like there was no one going in downtown. And I was like, where did I come? Like, where's the people? There's so many beautiful buildings, so many places. Well, turns out the people are like inside the buildings, in restaurants, in bars, in cafeterias, etc. So try to be an observer because you never know. Last week, after 1 year here, last year, I found out that close to university there was a beautiful sushi bar, and I walked through that place every day, and I didn't notice it until like 2 days ago. So, well, I don't know if you have any questions or you guys want to add something.
Hi, thanks Shajan, Fernanda, Luisa for the talk. I have two questions. One, you talk about exams. Is there any particular advice on how to prepare for the exams? In particular, because my understanding is that some professors may not necessarily have mock exam. So what we study may not necessarily be covered. We don't know exactly how we're going to be examined on. And the second one, it's in relation to the New York bar. So for some students, they may necessarily need to do the LLM to do the New York bar. Do you think any kind of like foundational courses you did were useful in the preparation of the New York bar, or do you think the online preparation material you've done before the New York bar is sufficient to prepare you to pass the bar?
For your first question, about preparing, sure, it's a point to study for the exam, but I would really recommend that you read as you go.
Yeah.
Like, do your readings. I know it's like a task because you're spending a lot of your time over the weekends preparing for classes. But if you read and are caught up, it'll be much more easier for you. Because I had both experiences. There were courses that I was, following along as I was going for the semester. I was reading along as the semester was going on, and there was one course that I wasn't reading. And towards the end of the semester, I realized it felt like a different language. And you don't have an outline by that time. And a lot of courses usually have open book exams.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an outline for that, you will get in a lot of trouble. There's an outline bank online for GW you can find, and there are some people who generously donate their outlines over there. But usually a lot of them are outdated. So it's really important to have your own outline based on your own thoughts and that you made yourself. That's always much better. So just read as you go, 100%. And about the bar exam, I took corporations and secure transactions. Unlucky for me, those were courses that are only tested on the essay subject and are not very highly tested. Corporations that show up in my exam. But I would recommend, if you really want to, if you are a general LLM student and if you want to take the bar exam, maybe go ahead with CIF Pro, contracts, evidence, real property.
Yeah, I'm a specialized student, but I don't need to do modules for the New York bar. So this is one thing, should I do modules just to prepare for the New York bar, or is the online preparation course is enough to prepare me from April to June, July to pass it?
You do have to take some courses for the bar exam either way. I think you have
No every
6 credits.
country. No every
Not
country.
every
Some
country,
countries
but
don't
some
need.
country exams. Yeah,
Some
that's
countries
all.
don't need LLM
Yeah,
programs for
that's,
the
yeah,
yes.
I'm asking for that regard.
Yeah, well, it depends of how confident you are about memorizing everything in 3 months. But if you have books of memorizing things and you are feel like I'm great, don't need it. But I think that, for example, I took contracts and it was helpful for me to don't be so focused in contracts because I had already that class. So I just was remembering what I did in class. Other people who took property, that is a very complicated thing, and it's a very useful thing if you want to live here, was important, so they do just need to memorize. So it depends if you want to say like, I wasn't really great in contracts back in my country, so I'm gonna better take contracts right now, at least use some credits. Otherwise, if those classes are gonna be important in your CV, as well, you need to concentrate what you are gonna put in your CV. I'm gonna put what classes I took. You are not gonna put I took contracts because everybody takes contracts. But yeah, it depends on what. If you feel not that safe in one class, take it. You have to.
It's about the New York bar too. As foreigners, for you, what was the most disturbing UBE subject to learn?
Property is very property is difficult. When I'm sorry, I learned it when I just was finishing the course. Many classes after, when I was reviewing again property, and I was like, oh, now I understand it. I can't believe it. So in the very beginning, I didn't understand very well, but after when I was reviewing back, I was able to understand better. The Barbie is a very, very well structured course. It's an amazing course. I love it. So I think that properly. But also, I think that most important is feel confident that you're gonna pass the exam. Is sit down every day to study the material consciously, and is don't freak out because when you start the course, it was like I will never go through, and I finished the whole course. So
A lot of people finish it, but if you're just listening passively, it doesn't really help. You need to count how many hours of active listening and actively practicing that you spend while studying. So, and it doesn't really matter. I don't think any subject is especially more difficult than any other one. It really depends on what courses you took, UB courses you took during your LLM, and also what background you have. So if you've been a corporate lawyer before, corporation and secure transaction was very simple for me because I had experience and I also had coursework in that. So you can, it might be very different from you. It might not be popular for you if you had that during your LLM. It just really depends on how many hours you're spending while you're studying 3 months before the exam.
Yeah. Thank you so much, all three of you. You gave a wonderful insight. So my follow-up question is on the New York bar exam. Can you share your last few months, how it has been, preparing for the bar exam? Because I know it's a complete different ball game altogether from the LLM. And do you sometimes, thought of, postponing, your, exam, giving it later on, or, you felt that time because, it's a very short period of time that you are, giving the bar exam, and it's a very tough one.
well, I also thought that I should have started before, but it would have been impossible because I had my exams, I had the internship, I had other things to do, still events, so it was impossible. But if you sit down during the 3 months and you really focus on studying, just studying, and you schedule 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., 12 a.m. or something like that, so you are gonna at least go through the material consciously. It's not just go through the courses and hey, yeah, I read it and I pass the next video and pass the next. No, it's like really understand what you are seeing. And if you don't understand in the very beginning, don't worry, you will understand eventually at the end of the course.
It's like one really, really long day that happens over and over again. And it's different for everyone. So for me, I'm a morning person, so I start at 6 in the morning, try to get done by 3. My wife took in February, she would start at 11 at night and stay up all night. It's just crazy for me because, who does that? But just think about what works for you and try to make it as easy as you can for yourself. The best advice I got before I started was treat it like a job. That you're starting, at 8 in the morning, work till 5, take a break, relax, have dinner with your friends. But during the time you're studying, it's curtains out, has to be like really active. Put your phone away.
Yeah.
My biggest problem was, people sharing reels. get exams, it's crazy, right? Turn your phone away, put it away. And if you can even have, 6 hours of really good active studying, you're golden. It's fine.
Well, it depends of every person. I had 12 very focused on it, and still I felt like. But the most important advice I received from one classmate was disconnect your Wi-Fi, put your cell phone far away from you because it totally disconnects you. Another question is different to bar.
Yes, I have. I have two questions. One related to you recommend, and I was also thinking about this to prepare for the exams, like taking the exams that we had already in the exam library. Well, we have the questions there, but as we come, as you told, from different countries, different continents, different ways to prepare and to respond to the questions. Do we have any? Can we find somewhere the examples for how to answer the questions?
That's a good point. Usually professors give you sample questions of students that have
And answers? Sample
yeah,
answers?
and
Okay.
sample answers of previous exams and students that got an A or an A plus.
Yeah.
So usually all professors do that. If they don't, you can ask them. If they don't, well, you will have to
Yeah,
find out by yourself. But most professors will. So
Well,
yeah,
share
you will have
this.
that. You will
Yeah.
have that. Yes.
And the second question is, like you are saying, we have to approach people to be approachable. It's not a problem, but how to start correctly an email when you write like first time, hi, I'm an LLM student, like to be to get the contact with the person. Literally, when you wrote about 700 and 400 emails, you already at the end, at the 700th email, you just change your style and you are getting a more perfect way of writing and introducing yourself.
Well, about it, you never start correctly.
Yeah.
And you go improving with the comments that the people who answer you tell you. So you tell them, this is the email I am presenting. Do you think it is a good email? And that person will say, no, include this or take out that. Also, other important thing, and many of the people who answer me was because they previously, 4 years ago, worked in Colombia. So I was like, I had a very beautiful experience in Colombia, so I answered that email because they receive all day long emails. So if you find something that is connecting with that person, it is very useful. If that person one day in 30 years ago went to your country, so you can come with that. Another person answered me because they were working at the university. Another because that person had my same name, and that was the reason because he answered me. So every person is going to answer you from different reasons, but if you find a connection, if you are working in the same area where they are working, and you write them like, hey, I have a question about this article that you wrote, it makes a link with the person who you are reaching out to. So, and then you learn with as well, Fahid gives a very good sample and a very good a workshop about it. But yeah, it's just the correct way to do this process is by starting as soon as possible. I think that's the basic. Start as soon as possible and you go with your time. Also put them to see your resume. That's a great thing for two things. One, because they know you.
To attach your resume.
Attach your resume with your email, of course. But once they answer you, ask them recommendations about your resume. For two things. One, because they finally know who you are, otherwise they are not going to look into that. And second, because they give you a lot of great advices. If grammar advices or what to put, what not to put. So that's very, very important.
And additionally, one fundamental part of DC culture is networking. Totally. Yeah, you're gonna hear networking and you're gonna get tired of that word at the end of the year. But yeah, like every week there's 2 or 3 events or 4 events or even 5 days of the week events where you here in the university where you have the panel and the speakers, and most of these events will have a networking break. Literally, it's called like that, networking break, where you can approach not only the speakers but the organizers of the event or other people that are assisting to the event. So the university. One great thing about UW is that it provides you with these kind of spaces where you get the opportunity to get in touch with people in the same field as you are, people that has a lot of more experience than you. And one thing that Luisa mentioned is a good point. Find things in common. Find things in common with the people, classmates, professors, someone who has experience in your field. So, that.
And I'm sorry, after I give you the point. Also in the events, try to, if there is a speaker that you say that person would be very convenient to know, try to have questions for that person, specialized questions, like, hey, how are you, how was your day, or what is the weather in DC next week, but really specialized questions that the person can know that you know about it. I remember from the research paper, I made a lot of contacts because I always had the topic to talk about, and also I took the NAFTA and arbitrations and that. So it was like you have a topic, and after they hear you about, like, very properly about the topic, they say like, hey, let me connect you with this person, or if you want, I can send your resume to the requirement team. So that's as well important. Not just go to as many events as you can, because that gives you word, that gives you confidence, but also be more specific, more exactly, more like this, I want to talk with this person.
It's especially true for people at the World Bank. They love to talk about themselves. In fact, one of the people I was working with, he had a few minutes blocked off on his calendar every week just for networking, coffee chats, or meetup. It's almost an expectation to be meeting someone new and exchanging ideas and what they want. It's really important, and it didn't come very naturally to me because before coming to America, getting a cold email about meeting someone was usually a red flag back home. But it's absolutely completely fine. It's not work, it's not awkward. It's an expectation. That's how you build a network of people who remember you. And especially if you want to work at the World Bank, reach out to people and have an elevator pitch that Pride will tell you about very extensively. Like brief 2 sentences about who you are and what you want, and people will get back to you. And someone will meet you online, someone will meet you. I have those almost every week right now, because it's usually, you don't stop networking just because you have a job, right? Especially World Bank initially, the contract is like so, temporary, and you need to constantly be on the move, and sense where an opportunity might be. Just keep meeting people, emailing people, LinkedIn messages, as brief as you can be, and you'll get back to you.
Yeah, LinkedIn is very important. Very, very important that you have LinkedIn on order, that you have really well written what you did before, because that's what you bring to the law firms and to the teams here, your back experience, your experience back in your country. So that you put exactly what you did, that you put the key words on your descriptions, on your summary. That's very important. I have received some calls from LinkedIn, from messages from LinkedIn that say, hey, would you like to be part of this selection process? So that's very important, that you be active on LinkedIn, that you send, it doesn't matter that you don't know the person. Just if you like a law firm, just send all the friendship connections. The request. Make request, because you want to have more than 500 connections, contacts. That's important. I have connected on LinkedIn with a lot of people as well, and that's great.
Someone had a question?
So we have 5 more minutes. If the questions could be more about student life. For the bar exam, we'll have next week on Tuesday, we have 2 other alumni who will come and talk to you about, yet again, about the bar exam, how to take the DC bar and the New York bar, who sat down and took it. So maybe questions on student life experience the next 5 minutes?
I do have a bar question.
Then, sorry, the bar question, you can ask them about it offline, but after the 5 minutes.
It's focused for 9 days specifically.
After, if it is bar, after, because we
After this session, you can ask them, and then we are actually having 2 other alumni come and talk to you all about the Tuesday afternoon. So, yeah. Questions?
We had one there.
Did you attend any extra duties like student organizations and And did you find them useful?
Yes, absolutely. I was part of the International Law Society, I was the LLM representative, and through that society I was able to organize one very big event and help with others that were very helpful for me because this is a to say that no everything is super